Calling all units, calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.
Yo, yeah, I'm live. I forgot to hit the go live button. I thought I hit it, but it wasn't. So here we are. And to those of you still over here on Instagram, you're gonna get ended soon. You're gonna get ended. That's probably not a good thing to say. But yeah, there we go. Head over to YouTube. See you over there. All right, what's up? Good morning to those of you that have come over to the YouTube channel for Coffee and Donuts, saying what's up. And I'm gonna wait for some people to get back on, or get on here, and feel free to chime in with any questions or anything you want to talk about in the chats. But I'm here, and like I said on Instagram, one of the things that I thought about, hey, you know what? Why don't I talk about it? Is the late night television stuff with like Stephen Colbert, with CBS not renewing the contract. So I'm going to talk about that. Good morning, Jerry Worms. Hi from Cape Cod. Cape Cod attending. Oh, yes. And thank you. So those of you that didn't know, Friday was my birthday, 43 years old, solid 43. So here we are, feeling good. Had a great dinner on my birthday. Went to a place, my initials are J-A-Y. Went to a place called Jay's Steakhouse in a 1920s church in downtown Fort Lauderdale. Really good food. I enjoyed it. We've been there before. It used to be another restaurant called, I think it was called Holy Blues or something. That place was good, but it ended up closing. I don't know the story behind it. And when my wife and I drove by and saw that it was closed, we were bummed. And then I saw an Instagram video about Jay's Steakhouse, and they kind of reformatted the inside a little bit, opened it up a little bit more. So pretty cool spot. So good morning, Liz. Good morning, George. Thank you. Yeah, figuring out how to make coffee wherever you are on vacation is a must. But unlike the previous few live shows, I have a donut today. So now I'm actually going to have coffee and donuts before I go to the gym. So now you get to sit here and watch me eat with no audio filling. So probably a bad idea to eat a donut live streaming. So one of the energy to burn for sure. A couple calories. I'd say sour cream Publix donut. So energy to burn. I'll definitely kick that off in F45. So I mentioned that I was going to bring up the late night television thing, and there's been a bit of talk, especially due to the podcasting world. I'm not going to say that podcasts brought down late night television, but when you think about it, these late night television shows, I grew up watching Letterman. I didn't watch Leno as much, but Letterman was my thing. And then Conan O'Brien. So, but Conan O'Brien was on NBC, I believe. But Letterman was on CBS. But I just liked Letterman's humor and comedy and stuff. But it was good, and it was where people got to see sometimes their movie stars or hear stories and silly gags and stuff. But nowadays, with people's attention spans sucking, and the need for quick content that you put on TikTok and Instagram Reels and shorts and stuff like that, these that's where I end up watching these shows. For one, I don't usually stay up that late because during the week I got to wake up at 4:20 in the morning to go to work, but I end up consuming it through Reels. So these shows end up becoming obsolete as far as their advertisers are concerned. So then we you end up just consuming it through shorts and reels, and then even stuff as like the Daily Show. Now granted, yeah, I mean, I'm Republican type guy, conservative type stuff, but I still watch some of the other shows just because it's funny to see everyone get made fun of. I don't, I'm not going to get sensitive about it and get defensive if people start, destroying and yelling about Trump and stuff. I don't care. And sometimes you find a good argument. You got to listen to both sides of the argument. So, and Jon Stewart's funny, even though he's kind of a quack sometimes. So I enjoy him, but I end up just watching his part or I watch it on YouTube. Like my YouTube algorithm feeds it to me, and I check out his show on YouTube, or sometimes just like a specific topic rant um, on regular YouTube videos. So I don't end up watching it or clicking it. He gets millions of views on YouTube, but and who knows what the numbers are when you're watching Comedy Central and what their Nielsen rating or whatever you want to call it is. But back to like Stephen Colbert, and Jerry says, Stephen Colbert was a Trump hater. And so there was obviously talk about how CBS had to pay out a big sum of money because of a lawsuit that Trump filed against him for doctoring interviews on 60 Minutes. They doctored interviews with Kamala Harris during the lead up to the election, where where her interview was, as we know, it would have been pretty unintelligible. They chopped it up and they made it to where it sounded better. Her answers sounded more official. Whereas in real time, the interview, it was kind of like, not really sure what she was saying. So, and then she finally gathered herself and gave a cohesive answer to a question. And so they chopped that up, and Trump found that out or whatever. And it was part of the lawsuit. I'll admit I'm not all up on the lawsuit, but I kind of know at least the basis of what they're doing. So, there's that. There's probably the fear that, Trump or the federal government is coming after some of these news agencies and causing them issues and problems. And, with Stephen Colbert, his actual real life personality, being, more liberal and not afraid to talk about it, which is fine. Talk about whatever you want to talk about. But, getting deep into that and speaking to that audience and alienating portions of the audience that are viewing it on national television like that, it's going to make people either tune out or get angry or whatever. So CBS must have found that the cost benefit analysis wasn't working and it wasn't worthwhile. So it'll be interesting to see if people like, Jimmy Kimmel on ABC loses their spot, or Jimmy Fallon, and I enjoy Jimmy Fallon, and I think Fallon stays a little clear of that. He's just that comedian from Saturday Night Live that, seems like he just wants to have fun. So we'll see what happens to the likes of the Tonight Show. But Jimmy Kimmel's always been an outlier, being that you really only had NBC, the Tonight Show and the Late Show were really the only two main ones. And then years ago, they added the ABC version with Jimmy Kimmel. So, I found Jimmy Kimmel funny when I was in college, and he was doing the Man Show stuff and being silly. But, nowadays, some of the stuff he does is a little off, in my opinion. What do you guys think? Do you guys dabble in the late night television? Do you stay up late enough, or do you pull it in at all through social media, like I said? But to that conversation, one of the like advertising points, or one of the points of podcasts, is we sit here as podcasters and we do 1 hour conversations, 2 hour conversations, sometimes more. And it gives a person the opportunity to really get their point across, versus when you're on 60 Minutes or when you're on a late show. Like when you're on your late show, they've got, 6 minutes or less of available time to, advertise or talk about whatever the topic is, be it a movie that somebody's advertising, or or if they're just talking about themselves, or a book or something like that. So people will come on these podcasts now, and they have the opportunity to, at least the way I operate it with my show, is like establish the guest, kind of explain like why they're knowledgeable about this, why they're good at this job, why they wrote a book, and then talk about the book, or talk about their job, or who they are. So it really gives the audience more ability to, link up with that person, understand a little bit more of how they think and how they function in whatever their purpose for coming on Donut Shop Podcast is. So the podcasts are better for that. And and so you look back to the campaign for the 2024 elections. That's where podcasting really hit hard against these the news television shows, because the podcasting gave the political candidates an ability to get in there and really talk and sort of make themselves seem, whether they are or aren't, make themselves seem more endearing, more personable to the audience. Some people watched like the Rogan episode with Trump, and they're like, "Oh my God, listen to this guy talk!" Like, it's different than the sound bites that you get when he's talking to the media out in the lawn in front of the White House, or on Air Force One or something like that. It's a different type of conversation when Trump's sitting there talking on a podcast to Rogan, or you've got Theo Vaughn talking about doing cocaine. I don't know where he's going with that, but even as far as, I was talking to a guy last night. I was at my buddy Ben's retirement ceremony, or retirement party. Congrats, Ben, on retiring 33 years with the police department. So congrats, man. And so I was talking to his brother, who recently just won a seat in the Florida State House. So in Tallahassee, he's a state representative out of Melbourne. And I was talking to him about, what podcasts can bring for people like local state legislators. And I'm very passionate about, oh, I'm passionate, but I feel strongly about, some of these state leaders getting on podcasts more often, and talking about laws that are coming up for the session in Florida, and kind of getting the message out and explaining it more and more, because none of us want to read, or at least I don't. I want to hear it from somebody who's standing on the floor trying to push that bill through, what the merit of it is, why this law needs to be created, or why a law needs to be adjusted, and then kind of teaching our audience about how the legislature works. Because I got the opportunity to go up to Tallahassee. At least I went twice with the FOP. When I was on the FOP board, we went up for Day on the Hill, which was like a big FOP push, just to really get the message out about certain things that law enforcement was looking at, that were on the on the floor for vote, or in subcommittees, and in subcommittees, is when they either destroy a bill or they add a bunch of stuff. And a bill may come in at the beginning, and it's like all good natured and great, but then in subcommittees, sometimes these amendments get made, and it like, it really kind of beats it up and makes the bill almost sometimes useless. And then sometimes that's how they end up losing it. So that's a goal of mine, is to get in contact with some of these state legislators, and get them on a podcast, and talk to them about what they're doing in an upcoming session in Tallahassee. I have lines out to a guy I know, a friend of mine, Danny Alvarez. He's out of Tampa, District 69. I'm working on trying to schedule something with him, because I know he comes kind of from the law enforcement field and military field. So he's one of those guys that I can talk to about law enforcement type matters, or just stuff that I feel like. So let's see what's Jerry saying. Oh, good thing about like this live podcast. Yeah, I mean, we could do like lives with like those would be almost like town halls. Like if it was me and then like a state legislator or something like that, or a mayor or somebody, if we did one like this, it's basically a town hall. And I mean, I think some places have done stuff like this, for like a town hall with their legislator to allow people in the chats to ask questions. And so that's we there, I forgot, I got to do this, I got to add that. I got to add these little things. So it's, these are a good way to, like a live would be a good way. You got to have a moderator. You got to have somebody like a producer that's in there. You can't just have the candidate or somebody dealing with this. But, and then God forbid it gets like taken over by a bunch of weirdos and they ask a bunch of weird questions and stuff, or they make it not good. But so, these type of things, but I'm talking more towards like the recorded podcast style where, you just sit down and you ask a bunch of questions, and maybe you reach out through Instagram or your social media and you say, hey, like, these are some questions I'd like you to ask this candidate or this person. So, what's up, Adolfo? Thank you for, coming in this morning. This is not your Dominican coffee that you gave me, but I still have some left. So then, but so like that's back to what I was talking about with like the late night stuff. We'll see where this kind of grows to, where this late night television, how it has to adapt. Will they go to more of a streaming mentality or more of a online mentality? You know, yet to be seen. The article that, or the post that made me think about even talking about this today was that after Colbert, I guess, got the news of the cancellation of the Late Show with Stephen Colbert, after he got it, like one of the next nights when he does his monologue, he kind of like went off and was just talking crap. And they almost made the question of, or the executives were almost like, all right, do we fire him? Like, do we just say, okay, so we didn't renew it, which means when the season's over, then it's done. But did he step on his crank hard enough that they just decide, we're just going to fire him and just end the show right now? Business wise, it probably isn't the best because they already have advertising for it. And realistically, I think the, any publicity is good publicity. So I think that they're probably seeing an uptick in viewership just from the mere fact of saying that, hey, the show's canceled. So maybe I should do that to my show more often. So, but by saying the show's canceled, there might be people tuning in and going, oh yeah, I forgot, I used to love watching this or whatever. And Colbert used to be funny. Not used to be, I mean, he's still probably funny, but it was funny that he had a show he was created a complete different character that people believed was really him on Comedy Central that used to come on after the Daily Show. So that stuff was funny. So I mean, it's an interesting thing. Anybody else say any of that stuff, or you guys agree, disagree? Go ahead and chime in the comments. What's up? Good morning to everybody that's still tuning in. Coffee and donuts. I would take this opportunity to remind or mention to everybody. I'm going to see if I can throw this up, see if I still have it. There we go. Counterculture Live, Saturday, August 16th, 6 p.m. to midnight. Unseen Creatures Brewing and Blending in Miami. So we're going to have Counterculture is going to be out there. Tyler from Anti-Hero Podcast, Mike from Copville, myself, the guys from Tone Alert. They're flying in from Las Vegas, so it's not just like a cheater group of Floridians staying close. We actually have people flying in. Jerry and Liz Worms are flying in from Tennessee. I think Jimmy Watson will be there. So come and check out Jimmy Watson. Say what's up. He's always a good time. So we're going to be there at the brewery from 6 to midnight. It's a Saturday night. And, we're looking forward to it. It's always a good time. We'll have swag out there, counterculturing threads. We'll have swag booth. I'll have my hats will be out there. If anybody wants to buy, pick up some swag, and then just we'll we'll get to talk to everybody. We'll kind of like rotate some people through the podcast table, and then it'll be live streaming. If you can't make it, it'll be live streaming on YouTube. That announcement will be over on Counterculture's page on YouTube. So if you're not already following it, follow Counterculture. Check out, support the show by hitting up all the companies that we advertise through, all that kind of stuff. So that's fun. So we're looking forward to that one, and messing around with the logistics and stuff. It's interesting. All right, so I don't know what maybe I'll just call it like a little tech review. So I got the Ray-Ban Metas. They're Ray-Ban sunglasses. Well, they're sunglasses and regular glasses, but they're not prescription. I have yet to admit that I need prescription glasses, but they're clear right now, and then these have transitions. But you can see there's camera. Well, this is where the light is and stuff, and there's like a sensor here. But then this one, it shoots the camera. You can walk around and you do first-person point of view video. I did some of it on my personal Instagram story side, and it's fun. But then the other cool thing is in here, there's speakers that play the notifications, but then also play music. So these are basically open ear headphones as well. So I can sit here and not have to have ear pods in my ear. I can play music while walking around. I can take phone calls on them and have conversation. They have like a 4-hour battery in them, but then the case has its own charging, so it carries I think it says 30 hours of additional battery. So when this thing starts to die off, you throw it in the case for a little bit and it charges it back up. So it's pretty cool. I wore them out to dinner on my birthday, and look sophisticated or nerd, whatever you want to call it. And it was fun. And I'd take you can either hit the button and snap a picture or start a video, or you can just tell it to do it, and it'll do it. But they're comfy. I've been looking at them for probably over a year now, and finally decided to pick up a pair. The transitions to dark aren't really what I prefer. I prefer some dark Oakleys, just because no, thank you, Jerry. Just because I have blue eyes, and they're usually more sensitive to bright light, and being in Florida, you're not going to avoid the bright light. But they did all right. We walked around outside for a little while, and maybe a little squintage. So if I really need some dark sunglasses, I'm just gonna have to wear normal sunglasses. But I figured it'd be cool content for the beginning of podcasts, and maybe being able to make a reel where emptying out some of the gear from the car, bringing it into the Dunkin' Donuts when I record, doing some setup, just some quick clips, and then adding it in with some video of the guest, and then making that as a reel. I figured it's just it'll be an asset that I can use to help out with some of the storytelling on social media about the podcast, because it can't just be all about the podcast. You got to advertise. You got to do a lot of work. People say, "Oh yeah, I want to start a podcast," or somebody tells someone, "Yeah, you should start a podcast." They don't always necessarily understand what comes in, or what starting a podcast really entails, and doing it. So for Counterculture, we create and produce the podcast for Jimmy Watson and Taylor Kavanaugh, and it's a lot of work on the back end. It's not just not to say those guys haven't earned it, but it's they sit down and they get to talk, and then they can walk away, and then we're doing all the work on the back end, all the editing, all the equipment, and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot that goes into it. It's fun. It's a great experience, and I love it. But people forget, if their friends start telling them, "Oh yeah, you should start a podcast." Now you can do it easy, and you can just sit there and talk on your AirPods to your phone while you wander around or go walk your dog, and you can do a 20-minute conversation with yourself, kind of like I'm doing right now, and post that to something. But are you gonna get people to listen, get people engaged? Maybe not. And that's one of the reasons why I started this Sunday morning thing, is so that I could, like, engage with people, or you know get people talking. I'm going to drink this eventually. I'm not just going to sit here and hold my coffee cup. So yeah. But yeah, this week it was a good short week at work. Um, Not too many crazy calls. But like I said, last night I went to my friend Ben's retirement party, and then I think it was Friday. Friday was the cake day ceremony type thing. I call them cake day ceremonies at the police department, and it was awesome. We had a lot of people. There was a lot of people that showed up for it, and because Ben was is an Explorer advisor, was an Explorer advisor, like myself. A bunch of kids showed up, or they were kids. Now adults, some of them current police officers, military. It was awesome to see all of them, and they all got up and talked and explained how Ben really helped make a difference in their lives, and sort of steer them on the path that they're going down now. And part of my thing is when I would do the Explorer Post interviews, and we interview the kids, as because they're usually high school age, we interview them just to really kind of see where their heads at and what they're thinking about when they're joining the Explorer Post. And I would always tell them, like, and I tell their parents, I'm not trying to build a police officer. Yeah, that's what we teach about, and that's what we train them to do for scenarios and competitions against other police department Explorer Posts. But I'm just trying to make them, better Americans, better adults, teach them, conflict resolution that they're not going to get in school or in a college class. How to communicate with people. We're just teaching them all those things. And then if they take it and want to run with it and become a police officer or get into some other government field, so be it. Awesome. But if they want to go, go to college and learn something else, or jump into anything else, just be productive people. And so that's kind of what we're teaching in there, or at least whenever I taught. And it's cool to see them come back, and some of them were even at the party last night, so it was cool. And they're all of age, so they were able to drink, but I don't even think they were drinking. It was cool to hang out with them in a social setting and stuff. And now that they're all grown up, and it's cool to talk to them about what they're doing and everything. So happy for Ben. I'm not far behind you. Going out that door. December will be my time when I hit 20, and I'm gonna take off at 20 and get out of there. Somebody was asking in the Instagram chat earlier if I'm still an active police officer, and yes, it is a fact. I'm still an active police officer, working road patrol, and doing the Lord's work out there on the streets in my city that I cannot name. It's usually a thing that active police officers, per their policy and procedure, can't really talk about where they work or name it. So even though I'm pretty sure you can figure out where is my retirement party going to be, probably nowhere. I don't know if I'm going to do a retirement party. I'm just going to Irish goodbye and just walk out and not tell anybody. I don't know. I don't like parties about myself or being the center of attention for that thing, which would seem weird because I'm sitting here doing a podcast as the only person on it. But I'm kind of weird, and I'm trying to admit some of those things as a, because as you focus on things like mental health, you got to try and admit things about yourself and pay attention to those. So what's up, everybody in the chats? Anybody else have anything they want to talk about or ask a question, or I can go over? They're pretty good, hitting the 30-minute mark coming up, which is good. Let's see. I don't think I have any other like announcements other than, go go to my website, buy a shirt, support the show. Always appreciated. Oh, this week. So this week I have the episode I have coming up this week is the guy's name is Dakota Cook. He's a police officer in Oklahoma. Also can't name his agency, but he works with a task force. So he's kind of detached. He's a task force officer that works like highway interdiction. He has a canine, and he does highway interdiction. So for those of you that might not understand, they're they're looking for people moving drugs, people, merchandise, whatever, on the highways. And so some of these places, like in the Midwest, you've got these major thoroughfares. And so for him, it's shooting up from Texas, which may be coming from the border, but it's coming like originating in Texas type thing, at least as far as the US is concerned. And then it's moving up towards a large city like Chicago. So you're coming straight up through some of that area that he patrols. And so we talked about that and talked about his training company that he owns, Leoden LLC, where people can learn about some of that training. And he came to me through our buddy Kenny Williams, who is part of the Justice Academy, and they have a training conference coming up in Myrtle Beach in April, and that is where Dakota is going to be. And and Howard Mergler that I talked to about retail theft, he's going to be there. So I'm kind of working on interviewing some of those training officers, those trainers that are going to be at the Justice X training conference in Myrtle Beach. So let's see. Jerry says his podcast with Kenny on and Beyond the Barrel is going to air August 22nd. So August 22nd, you can check out Beyond the Barrel, and that's where Jerry will be interviewed by Kenny. So Jerry's always a excellent guest, has great stories. So that'll be in April is going to be another opportunity to check out Counterculture as well, because we'll do a live show there. So we'll be hitting Myrtle Beach area, meeting the people and doing a live podcast. We'll have kind of the idea is to have sort of a podcast alley, kind of like if anybody watches football, the NFL draft, that kind of stuff, or the Super Bowl has Radio Row, and these all these sports talk radio stations and stuff are all there, and they're interviewing other players and personalities and stuff that are walking around taking in the festivities of the Super Bowl. So we'll be doing that, but taking in the festivities of a training conference. I know it sounds super exciting, and hopefully we will make it even more exciting. So that's like April something. I'll try and pull it up on my calendar. April like 21st to the 23rd that week. So, get in there on the 20th, get all stretched out at the bar, and make sure you're ready to learn. So we will be there as part of Counterculture and my new retirement job of being a podcast host. Hopefully that works out for me. All right, guys and girl, I'm sure Liz is watching too. Anybody have anything else, or else we might kick that off? Yeah, my episode drops Tuesday morning. It'll show up Tuesday morning, but just like Counterculture, all across the board, Counterculture's got all kinds of shows dropping all during the week. We even have a sports show now with K9 talking sports. They're gonna add a fantasy football show that'll probably come on after I do this live stream when football season's getting closer into the swing. Talk about fantasy football, because there are people in the community that want to learn about fantasy football and who they should play in their lineup. So we'll have that coming up, and check out everybody else on Counterculture. So all right, I think that's gonna wrap it up. I'll go get ready for the gym, and talk to you guys later. So thanks for tuning in, and be sure to share it, comment, whatever, subscribe, do all that kind of cool stuff. Support my show and all the rest of them if you can. Thanks. Bye.
Calling all units, calling all units. Donut Shop has a fresh dozen. Go ahead and take a 1040.